Hi friends, it's Melanie with the Astro Weather of the week, and we are just coming out of the last full moon of the spring season last night. As I was opening here the app to record this, the screensaver randomly, right, so-called randomly, showed an eagle above a waterfall. So how perfect for the Sagittarius full moon after a Scorpio pre-full moon weekend and early week. You probably really felt the release and relief and the truth coming forward with that Sagittarius full moon, and especially also the heart truth. For all of us, speaking freely, speaking our heart truth is very apropos Sagittarius Gemini, and conversations heart to heart. In that mode, the truth can be conveyed much better. Additionally, we also have Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, freshly in Cancer, ruled by the moon. So, again, the component of emotional connection, care about people, right? Care about humans, care about children, about families, and that comes up especially as the as Jupiter freshly in Cancer will square Saturn also newly in Aries. That's going to be news for this weekend. One of the major news, one of the major alignments, and Sunday the 15th is packed. This is probably the one leading and the biggest backdrop. So what am I talking about? Talking about also with Saturn in Aries, Aries being warrior energy, being all about wars on all various fronts, including in the medical front, right? We have also Chiron in Aries. Often, um, often procedures are rushed, right? That is also very Aries, and that itself can create more wounding, and of course also rushing into war, rushing with that whole cest, with that whole actually it's a militarized hate in a way, right? And division. And we know that only the powers, the political, otherwise powers, and industrial powers benefit from wars. So, how about really coming forward and speaking on behalf of families and children who are the victims of wars? And this is big time happening now. And of course, it's also escalating. It also goes in all sorts of directions. However, there's a really a genuine impulse here, and also it's about common sense, right? Then yes, what about that full moon that we are now integrating? Typically, the days after the full moon, there is a dispensation. It's called. It's not a medical or whatever. It is about release of the energies that have built up and come to fruition with a full moon, and then we actually really experience the full moon's gifts more fully. So I show you again the chart of the full moon. I would have shown it to you last week, I hope so, and in the video, but definitely also in the Astro News blog, which you're most welcome to check out. There's a link below. And also in the Astro News email newsletter, which you're also most welcome to subscribe to. But here it is for you visually in this context as well. So, what a chart, what a energy field full of squares and oppositions, and that is tension, right? We have the full moon axis with the sun in Gemini, late Gemini, 21 degrees, and the moon late Sagittarius. So that is just the full moon axis, but the full moon also squared the nodal axis, the north node in Pisces, the south node in Virgo. So filling up a whole square box, so to say. That is called a grand square, And since it's all immutable signs, changeable signs, transitional signs from one season to another, it's called a mutable Grand Cross. So a lot of swirling, a lot of things spinning out into all directions, spinning out of control, and there is no quiet moment, right? That is mutable, right? Something's always moving, and things are constantly shifting also and changing. And for example, the news, right, from the Gemini perspective, also, of course, in our own field, our thoughts, our mind is constantly changing, also ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Virgo being also part of this with a south node, having to do with the busyness, the problem solving capacity of Mercury, the fixing, right? Always something to do. It is a great time, and I did this intentionally, consciously today as well, to do some cleanup, to just get into on a roll with it, right? And get into it. And then it has a life of its own, and it doesn't even feel so much like work, especially when you, at the same time, from a Pisces perspective, play music, for example, right? Or create a atmosphere where things are naturally flowing. And that is also the current incentive is Pisces, right? Generating a good energy field from which we also see things differently, and we're not stuck in a problem mode and in a critical, self-critical way of, yeah, always something wrong, so to say, right? And Pisces is rather about being the solution than focusing on the problem. That doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist, but we are solution oriented. And then we have the moon in Sagittarius as part of this. Again, here's a picture, right? So talked about Gemini, talked about Pisces, talked about Virgo, and then also the moon, of course, the big outlet with the moon in Sagittarius, end of Sagittarius, where she's been today in her last hours in Sag, which are ending in half an hour. So what's the timing here for this video also? No, it's not quite ending yet. At 6:55 p.m. she goes into Capricorn. She just goes void of course for a little bit. In other words, not having any aspect with another, with a planet before she changes signs. And but now she's in the galactic center, and this is also where deep truth sits, and where the big, where meaning can be really found, or a quest for meaning. Let's put it that way, because meaning again is not a static experience, and maybe impermanence is real deep meaning. Everything constantly changes, right? Philosophy, understanding of things. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything, right? Because things change anyway, right? But at the same time, there's deep truth in that. So Sagittarius is about truth. Sagittarius is especially about heart truth. So when we are coming from our heart, where we just know, the heart knows, and the head typically doubts and questions and has all sorts of reservations or arguments or questions even, right? And the heart has a sense of right, a sense of truth, a sense of why, a sense of direction. That is very Sagittarian. And this is also the big yes, an energy that lifts us up, an energy that inspires us and others, and yeah, that conveys truth, right? So this is heart truth that I've been talking about in the newsletter and on the blog article, in the blog article for this full moon. So lots of moving parts, that's for sure. And we are integrating, especially when the moon goes into Capricorn this evening. things can get more grounded, because also there's nothing in an earth, well, there's a bit in earth signs. Venus is freshly in Taurus, which is lovely, but Uranus in Taurus doesn't help much. It's rather disturbing and disrupting the stability that Earth and Taurus especially provide. Then the South Node in Virgo, also Earth sign, doesn't help too much because it can be just like overly, yeah, busy and yeah, worried and all this, right? But not necessarily in a good way. And the moon goes into Capricorn, as I said, this evening. That is at 6:55 p.m. Pacific, and we'll be in Capricorn all day tomorrow, the 12th, including also Friday, the 13th. I say a bit about that day, until the early morning of Saturday, the 14th, exactly at 4 o'clock. No, 40, yeah, 400. Wow. Okay. And so Capricorn energy for the moon typically doesn't have such a good such a good reputation or rap, because it can be somewhat minimal when it comes to expressing emotions, for one, right? Can be very pragmatic and mature, but also a bit a bit kind of heavy, right? Even in a extreme way, depressed, right? Because Capricorn has experience, is mature, has seen it all. It's not like a child energy per se. It's more an energy of an elder. And what's with the moon there, right? So if our emotions go into that field, we are becoming we're becoming time conscious, resource conscious. We've seen it all. We've been there, done that, all these things, right? And yeah, so it's actually an interesting contrast to Jupiter freshly in Cancer, where Jupiter also was met before it entered Cancer by Mercury. So Mercury is ahead of Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter entered Cancer on the 9th. So you can talk a little bit about that at this occasion of the moon opposing those from Capricorn, which will be this evening already. For Jupiter will be this evening. For Mercury will be tomorrow morning. So, but basically, this is the energy that's building. And so we have this polarities. This is another kind of full moon energy, not with the sun in this case, but with moon and Jupiter Mercury. And from the Cancer side, it's about care. It's about the people, families, children. This is the motivation, right? This is the big why. And it's about, I just remember that constellation that was on in 1989, when also Jupiter was in Cancer, and so much was going on in Capricorn. Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. That's when the Berlin Wall came down and Eastern European communist socialist countries collapsed or disintegrated, which is and revolution was part of it, but also a fading away. And some people also say, bankruptcy, basically. The Neptune part, together with the Uranus part and the Saturn part, saying ending of an era. So that was very much backed by the people and the also notion to have a comfort and different kind of belonging, right? So people wanted to, especially in Germany where I grew up, right, belong together again, which is very Jupiter in Cancer, and being free from those regimes. And anyway, so there's different stories, like really, let's concede that. Different stories to history, her story, his story. And in hindsight, we can also, things are also often fudged, right? For the purpose of either through one's own filter or through a filter of a certain agenda, right? And so I leave that interpretation of the events in 1989 also open. But interesting was that Cancer Capricorn polarity. So we're having not this kind of dramatic version of it, we're just having this energy of Cancer Capricorn kicking in via the moon, ruler of Cancer, and then Jupiter super strong in Cancer. Now, so there is also the a theme of government, for example, with Capricorn, right? Structures, especially law and societal structures and hierarchies typically are Capricornian. Versus is an opposition theme, right? Versus needs and genuine needs, maybe needs for freedom, also with Jupiter in Sagittarius, Jupiter in Cancer, and freedom for the people and for homeland, which is also Cancer, right? Need for home, right? So back home is a big theme for Jupiter in Cancer. And all this escalation in Gaza is, of course, part of that. And we're having all this regime and institutionalized wars and war machine, very Capricorn Aries in a way, right? And thankfully, Saturn and Neptune are now in early Aries. And Saturn really says, hey, we got to do a serious reality check about the notion of war. And yeah, so it is pervasive. It says Neptune, right? It can be addictive, even, right? And it can be part of this old Pisces age phenomenon that is now coming to a closure. And why Pisces age? Because also Neptune rules Pisces, and that has been characterized in the last 2000 plus years by lots of mass phenomena, often in the name of ideology, religion, and in any case, causing so much suffering, causing so much collective suffering and so called sacrifice. And so this is now not working anymore. So, Saturn, we're going into a new era. We're phasing out, and this is just utterly destructive and a waste of energy and so disrespectful and criminal, right? So all of that is Saturn, the judge, in strong in Aries. Well, not so strong in Aries, but actually charged in Aries, right? So says Saturn says, how can we end? Not how can we must, right? And how will follow, right? We must end wars. Wars must end. And also the question, where and how do wars begin? What is our own responsibility with Saturn, right? In terms of conflict. And yeah, so our own othering, right? That's typically also a Saturn thing, right? The othering can create conflict, us and them, me and you, right? I'm different and maybe arrogant about that. That could be then a component of Sagittarius, even, right? And I'm higher and more whatever than you, right? So, also telling our heart truth, but also listening. That is the Gemini side, listening and learning. Listening and learning from one another, super important. Then, yeah, so this is a really charged time. Now, with that full moon being so, activated on all four mutable corners, and also with that square coming up from, we have here, Jupiter in Cancer to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. This is big for the second half of June and even early summer theme because it is also the last, it's the first square, it's the last of three alignments, but it's the square that followed the conjunction that follows. It's coming and has happened last year in Gemini and Pisces. but now it's in Cancer Aries, and it's the square that follows that conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter at winter solstice 2020, that alignment that started a new 20-year cycle of a socio-political, economic, cultural cycle at the first degree of Aquarius, where now Pluto is, right? So it is another indicator we're moving into a new era for our shared humanity and for freedom, for future of children and cultures, right? And so now comes this crisis point with that square. So we had that already last year with the Gemini Pisces component. In other words, it had a lot to do with the media, had a lot to do with division and collective programming in that regard. And now we have it from Cancer to Aries. Now it's really about genuine care, as I said, and it's about addressing the omnipresence of war and how can it end. This needs to find conclusion, and maybe the people really have to stand up for that. So that's a big one. And Jupiter squares Saturn on Father's Day, interestingly, on Sunday the 15th, and it squares Neptune on the 18th. And that's quite the strong entry of Jupiter into Cancer, which it just started literally 2 days before the full moon, and it is a different energy now. You probably feel it. So what else is going on this week? And then we go to the moon more, not literally, but the moon's signs this week. So the big day is Sunday with that Jupiter Saturn alignment, but also two other alignments. There is Mars in end of Leo squaring Uranus end of Taurus. That is also like a firecracker that can be quite a reckless energy, can be accident prone, so take care and don't be too, I would say, yeah, some spontaneous assertions basically they don't necessarily go well. Like when also I was thinking of the whole theme of my way or the highway, that can go sideways, so to say. Not no pun intended. So yes, pun intended actually. So don't want anybody to land in a ditch. But yeah. So be also channel that energy into something different, like for example into breaking habits, which is also Uranus in Taurus. So breaking habits that keep you stuck and doing something creative. Go out and show your colors and also assert with in a creative way, right? That's Leo, right? Maybe performance, even in some way, just a playful kind of performance. Assert your values, right? That is also Taurus, right? And experiment and find joy. Joy is very much apropos Leo and Taurus in combination. So yeah, different ways of being and embodying freedom, as I keep saying, for Uranus in Taurus. And yeah, so channeling that energy rather than going into some weird, spontaneous and avoidable conflict. Then also on Sunday, Venus in Taurus will oppose Lilith in Scorpio. So the opposition isn't necessarily such a challenging thing. It's more like a polarity. It's a partnership, ideally, right? So this can be about Venus Venus in Taurus likes to enjoy spring, going into summer, right? And Lilith in Scorpio, though, goes into deeper layers of the psyche, of the underground, of processing things. and especially of shedding layers of conditioning, because Lilith is all about rewilding ourselves. She's the wild woman archetype, and she takes us out of what has domesticated us, right? So, and so that can be actually a nice combination, right? Doing something that brings you joy, deconditions what's repressed with Scorpio, what is under the surface and festering there, right? So letting that, um, letting yourself process these things and not controlling so much, but of course, a good container for that would be great. Then we have on Tuesday, the last day of this astro week, we have Mars changing signs. Mars has been in Leo forever, not exactly, but since last November. So entered Leo first on November 3rd, I believe it was, and was in Leo until January 6th. Went back to Cancer because at that time Mars was retrograde, and then went forward again from Cancer, in Cancer from February 23rd on, then entered Leo again on the 17th of April, and now on to go fully through Leo, and now on the 17th of June leaves Leo. So quite a while in Leo. We got used to it almost, right? And now going into Virgo. So that Leo Virgo cusp is known to be the Sphinx Point, because this is where the powerful and very strong lion is being tamed, right? For one, it's like the energy of the tarot card strength, right? In some decks it's number 8, in other decks it's number 11. So strength, taming and channeling that passionate and wild, expressive Leo energy, and giving it some outlets, also some productive outlets, some going into service, bring our passion into service, bring our heart. It's a combination of heart and hands, right? Leo rules the heart, and Virgo the hands, right? So also skills and helping hands, service, as I said, right? So all of that comes out strong. It's also the energy after and why is it Sphinx? Also, Sphinx is all about self-awareness. It's an oracle. The self, the expressive self, the kind of unself-conscious self is a Leo energy, and just shows up and beams or dominates whichever way, right? And then Virgo becomes aware of itself, right? So in other words, practically speaking, what am I doing, right? And so it's also at a spiritual level, who is that self, right? And so it's self-awareness, self-inquiry, all these notions are Leo Virgo. And as I said, also channeling fire of Leo into a practical Virgo purpose. Mars will be in Virgo until August the 6th, and at that in that process will be also end of July. I haven't looked up the date, but around end of July will come together with the South Node. So here is Mars about to enter Virgo on the 17th next week on Tuesday, which is Mars Day also, right? And eventually will meet the South Node. So I mentioned before, for the for this chart of the full moon connecting with the nodes, right? That South Node can be an energy that needs to where excess needs to be released. So that end of Virgo is also very, very crafty and very much into being very busy, right? Or also it's literally business, and it's about everything is commodified also, right? So how can I create a business from this, right? So I'm thinking literally of the wars, right? And then this is not where the focus needs to be. That sort of business and money and functional approach, right? It's all about compassion from the Pisces side. It's all about connecting and and uh, and having empathy with the suffering, right? And so when Mars goes to the south node, it can trigger these things, right? So it can be even like all the notions to, yeah, but I have to make money and all this kind of thing, right? Virgo actually can have a scarcity mode too. And so that can go kind of on steroids, but at the same time, with Mars, it goes into the void, right? It can also help release that, and so but we're not quite there yet. This is one major marker for Mars in Virgo, though. And let's look at the moon. As I said, the moon will go into Capricorn this evening. We'll be in Capricorn until Saturday the 14th in the morning. Then, so that's again more grounded, more pragmatic, more matter of fact mode. Also great to get things done and to do some projects that are success and outcome oriented and to simplify, especially, right? Downsizing, simplifying after the full moon, waning Capricorn moon. Great. Then we have the moon in Aquarius. Saturday, all day Saturday from 4 a.m. on, all day Sunday, and Monday also until 11:09 a.m. So that can be a very social weekend. And it can be also, since the moon Aquarius will meet Pluto on a Saturday morning, can also be quite political, so to say, right? Can have to do a lot with powers. And in our personal life, it can also point us to social dynamics with friends and groups and so on, and power issues with them. And what, when there's power issues, what needs processing. Then we have the moon going into Pisces on Monday afternoon or Monday morning, 11:09 a.m. And we'll be in Pisces all day Tuesday when Mars goes into Virgo, and until Wednesday afternoon. So for the rest of the astro week here, and the moon in Pisces will be then with the north node. When's that the case? At some point on Wednesday morning. So this is all about, again, connecting with music, with arts, with anything that helps you, for one, to tune in and to be inspired, to channel something, and literally to connect with others, right? And also to let go very much. Pisces, North Node, waning moon, right? Maybe also releasing, washing things out. And then I want to say something about Friday the 13th. On Friday, so this is the only Friday the 13th this year. The last one was last December, and there won't be anyone else this year. So often Friday the 13th has been demonized, has been a bad luck day, has been also, from a Lilith and Scorpio perspective, hijacked and conditioned to be this really bad day. And then also to phenomena in culture and so on have been created based on this narrative. Then at the same time, and in a deeper and older level, it has always been the day related to the goddess. Why? Because Friday is the day of the week relating to Venus. In the Norse mythology, it's Freya, and in the Greco-Roman, it's Viernes, it's uh, Vendredi, it's Venerdì in Italian. So it literally, it's in the name uh, relating to Venus. So it's Venus Day. Every Friday is Venus Day. And 13 relates to the 13 moon cycles per year. So every year has either 13 full moons or 13 new moons. So 13 is a sacred number to the moon goddess. So we have a combination of moon and Venus. And I keep reinforcing that and dedicating to help bring that out, as many of you know already. And anyway, it's a goddess day, right? So it's really a day to consciously honor goddess on Friday the 13th. And lastly, because I forgot it before, we are now, since today, the 11th, until summer solstice, we are in the third decade of Gemini. Every sign has 3 decades, 3 10-degree segments. This is the last one of Gemini, and that has also a Gemini undertone. If you're born in that time, so you could also say you have an extra Gemini undertone. And that can be, of course, done for all the, not just for your sun, for your birthday sun, but also for other features in your chart. And also for full moons, for new moons, so for anything. It's another layer of reference in your astrological system. And so here we are in the last decade of Gemini with the Gemini undertone. So it's a lot about learning, communicating. I also call it like a pollination energy, right? Cross pollination and distribution in that regard, right? So it's a light energy. It's a lot about discussions and information, communication. All of that is very supported with that with that combination. So I leave it with this. It's been a long one, and I say goodbye till next week. Make sure you are on this notification here if you want to check in weekly. Subscribe, and yeah, if you liked it, like it. And so let other people know. So speaking of pollination and cross pollination, I totally welcome you to share this video with your friends and family. And I might see you in real life. Who knows, if you're in Victoria, or again, come as a client, or even come to our parlor. I haven't even mentioned that one. We will have a Jupiter into Cancer parlor on Monday the 16th. In the evening, live in person, and in the afternoon, online, 2 groups. You're most welcome to join, especially if you have anything in Cancer and you'd like to explore that. And yeah, hit me up if you're interested, and I can send you more information. It's also on my Facebook page as an event. And now, finally, okay, all the best for this week. And yeah, it's been a good experience this time again to do this video. Sometimes, to be honest with you, I'm stalling because I'm like, hey, what am I gonna say and how am I gonna say it, and then it just flows. That just happened again today. So have an awesome week, and wish you well. Bye bye.